And of course, the start of the U.S. Open and Serena Williams beginning preparing for her life after tennis. And Ojabers Tunisia as well in a few hours will be playing in New York. Peter?
Indeed, and some people are calling this Serena Day at the U.S. Open, or hoping that it is Serena Week.
Serena, she's a legend for me, definitely one of the greatest tennis players. So, and I'm glad I got to come up close and personal with her a few years back.
Oh, lucky you, lucky you. Many thanks, Mimi. And just remember that a quick reminder rather, that you can get in touch with me and some of the team on social media. I'm at Okwoche. But for now, that's it from Focus on Africa for today. We'll be back again with you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Hello, I'm Ros Atkins. Welcome to Outside Source. The number of people who've died in flooding in Pakistan is now past 1,000. A third of the country is underwater. We'll report from the worst hit areas.
The community that we found here used to live on the banks of the Indus River. There aren't any tents here, there's no clean drinking water, there isn't even any food, and they don't know, they tell me, why they've been neglected.
Scientists are blaming climate change for the floods. We'll hear how extreme weather is becoming more frequent in Pakistan. Also, across the hour, we'll talk about Liz Truss. It's a week to go now until the next Tory leader is announced, and of course the next Prime Minister with that. Liz Truss is the favourite, but today she's been criticised over her economic proposals as a response to the cost of living. We'll look at that critique. And NASA has postponed its mission to the moon after its rocket Artemis suffered engine problems during countdown. Pakistani authorities say a third of their country is underwater and that a majority of the country is now affected. This map shows the regions that are worst hit. We know international aid has begun to arrive. Pakistan's foreign minister gave the BBC this update.
NASA is not alone in bearing the cost. There are 20 other countries that the members of the Artemis Accords that are also participating in this mission.
And those, Svetla, I'm going to have to jump in. It's been fascinating talking to you. Thank you very much indeed. And those space alliances are relevant not just to space, but to security and cooperation on planet Earth too. So thanks to Svetla for joining us. I'll be back with you in a couple of minutes. I'm Ros Atkins, welcome back to Outside Source. The number of people who've died in the flooding in Pakistan has now passed 1,000. A third of the country is underwater and floods have washed away homes, roads and almost half of the country's cotton crop. UN nuclear inspectors are en route to Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia power plant, which is occupied by Russia. Frequent attacks have raised fears of a possible nuclear catastrophe.
But without an exaggeration, this mission will be the hardest in the history of IAEA, given the active combat activities.
Ukraine is offering the EU to help store gas as the European Union tries to curb soaring energy prices and wean itself off Russian energy. We're seeing violence in the Iraqi capital Baghdad after supporters of the influential cleric Muqtada al-Sadr have stormed government buildings. 12 people have so far died in this unrest. Well, let's spend the next few minutes focused on Ukraine. Its military says it's now launched a southern offensive against Russian forces in an attempt to reverse some of Russia's biggest territorial gains. The operation's particularly aimed at retaking the city of Kherson. Ukraine claims separatist fighters in the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic have retreated from their positions and that Russian troops who are supporting them have fled. First of all, from Kiev, here's my colleague Hugo Bachega. Todd, thank you. Yeah, we know the EU's ambitions, but we don't have the detail. We're waiting on that. That's Todd Gillespie from Bloomberg. Now, stay with me on Outside Source. In a few minutes' time, we're going to update you on the situation in Baghdad. These are supporters of a powerful cleric who have stormed the presidential palace after he announced that he was retiring from politics. I'm Ros Atkins with Outside Source. We're here in the BBC newsroom. Our lead story comes from Pakistan, where the number of people who've died in flooding there has now passed 1,000. Authorities say a third of the country is underwater. Well, let's turn to Iraq now, because medical sources say 12 people have been shot dead in clashes in the highly protected green zone in Baghdad. We know more than 80 people have been injured too. These are the latest pictures we have. Earlier on in the day, supporters of the Shia cleric Muqtada al-Sadr had stormed the presidential palace. That was after he had announced he was withdrawing from politics. These are pictures from inside the palace. You can see the protesters got as far as the swimming pool, and some of them took a dip. In response to all of this, Iraqi security forces have declared a nationwide curfew and ordered that all protesters leave the green zone. Well, let's hear from some of these protesters.
And the huge challenges facing the country are not really being addressed.
And Sebastian, you wrap up this edition of Outside Source. Thanks for explaining that story. We'll speak to you soon, I'm sure. That finishes this edition. See you tomorrow at the usual time. Bye-bye. I'm Ros Atkins. Welcome to Outside Source. The number of people who've died in flooding in Pakistan has now passed 1,000, and a third of the country is underwater. We'll report from the worst hit areas.
The community that we found here used to live on the banks of the Indus River. There aren't any tents here, there's no clean drinking water, there isn't even any food, and they don't know, they tell me, why they've been neglected.
Scientists are blaming climate change for the floods. We'll hear how extreme weather is becoming more frequent in Pakistan. Also in this half hour, UN nuclear inspectors are en route to Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia power plant, which is occupied by Russia. Frequent attacks have raised fears of a possible nuclear catastrophe. And NASA postponed its mission to the moon after its rocket Artemis suffered engine problems during countdown. Pakistani authorities say a third of their country is underwater and that a majority of the country is now affected by the flooding. This map shows the regions that are worst hit. International aid has begun to arrive, as we've heard from Pakistan's foreign minister, who gave the BBC this update. Now, in the next few minutes of Outside Source, we'll also turn to Iraq, where supporters of an influential cleric have stormed government buildings after he announced his retirement from politics. I'm Ros Atkins with Outside Source. We're here as ever in the BBC newsroom. Our lead story comes from Pakistan, where the number of people who've died in flooding has passed 1,000 and a third of the country is underwater. Now, let's turn to Iraq, because medical sources say 12 people have been shot dead in clashes in the highly protected green zone in Baghdad. It's also said that more than 80 people have been injured. These are the latest pictures we have, and earlier in the day, supporters of the Shia cleric Muqtada al-Sadr had stormed the presidential palace. That was after he'd announced he was withdrawing from politics. And then these pictures are from inside the palace. You can see his supporters not just located the pool, but decided to get in. For now, though, in Florida, the wait continues. The Artemis 1 mission has 2 more windows in which to launch. Both come early next month. Bear in mind, if you want more analysis from outside source, a good place to find it is via my Twitter feed at BBC Ros Atkins. We post clips from the programme all of the time, in particular our explainer videos. You can also find them on the BBC News website too. That is it for this edition of the programme. Thanks as ever for watching. See you tomorrow at the usual time. Bye-bye.
Hello there. We have some more thunderstorms breaking out across Europe in the next few days.